It's March 26, 2025, and you're watching Cover News. In an update to our previous story we reported on, more information was released about the signal chat of high-ranking Trump officials that leaked to editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg. Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel met with House of Representative members to talk about threats facing the U.S. Kind of fortunate that a scheduled meeting about security threats facing the U.S. was scheduled and put on the books right as this is going on. Jim Hims, a representative from Connecticut, questioned Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel, outlining the exact messages that were leaked and asking them, do you think that this should have been classified? And yesterday, when they were talking with House of Representative members, they said that they don't even recall that this messages were leaked or that this kind of information was said in the group chat. So when confronted with the actual messages, this is what they had to say.
Yesterday, Senator Heinrich asked, did this conversation, referring to the signal chat, include information on weapons, packages, targets, or timing? Director Patel, you said not that I'm aware of. Director Gabbard, you said same answer. This morning we learned that the signal chat included the following update, forward-looking update from the Secretary of Defense. Time now, 11:44 Eastern Time. Weather is favorable. Just confirmed with CENTCOM. We are go for mission launch. 12:15 Eastern Time. F-18 launch. First strike package. 13:45 trigger-based F-18. First strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. Also, strike drones launch. MQ-9s. 14:10. More F-18s launch. Second strike package. Do either of the directors want to reflect on their testimony yesterday in the context of what I just...
So, Jim Hims pretty much spells it out. These were the messages that were in that group chat. You guys said previously that none of that was classified. Do you guys have anything to talk about in regards to that? Pretty much questioning them and confronting them with their lie. And before I go on to their response, I kind of want to talk about, the messages that were leaked. We just heard exact weapons that were going to be used, flights, times, when things were going to happen. But something that I hear from the right now, and a defense to this, is that these aren't war plans. You weren't getting any kind of location or targets. And my answer to that is, one, just leaking this kind of information is extremely dangerous. The Houthis have shot down F-18s before in the past. At least there's one report of that happening. And also, there's just so many things that can go wrong if you leak this kind of information. I could just imagine knowing ahead of time that an attack is coming. You could set up weapon systems to try and counterattack these F-18s that are coming in, or we know that Hamas in the past, not the Houthis, but it's reported by the United Nations that they have used human shields in the past. So what's to stop the Houthis here from grabbing a school full of children and packing them with high-value targets, close to high-value targets, if they know that this attack is going to come? And if our intelligence isn't up to snuff and we don't see that, we might just bomb a bunch of Houthi children and have a bunch of egg on our face if that were to happen. So knowing ahead of time, there's a lot of countermeasures that really bad people could employ to make make America look bad, shoot down, put U.S. lives at risk, and just thwart this kind of an attack. But here's the response from Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel.
Kayleigh, that was made public this morning.
But Director, you didn't, prior to yesterday's Senate, you were on the signal chat, correct?
No.
Okay, but did you review the material on the signal chat?
No, I wasn't on it.
Director Gabbard?
Yes, Ranking Member. My answer yesterday was based on my recollection, or the lack thereof, on the details that were posted there. I was not, and what was shared today reflects the fact that I was not directly involved with that part of the Signal chat and replied at the end reflecting the effects, the very brief effects that the National Security Advisor had shared.
So basically, the answer is from the FBI. I wasn't a part of the chat. Leave me out of this. And from Tulsi Gabbard, who was in the chat, sorry, I actually didn't remember the messages. And I know that this is a huge story in the news, and I could have gone back and, looked at the chats that were said in there, or probably couldn't have because they were deleted, and we didn't do record keeping as we should have, which is a question that should have been asked here. Do you guys have records of these chats? And if not, like, how do you not remember if you don't have a record of it? The the government should have a record of these policy discussions, but apparently you don't. So yeah, I don't remember is Tulsi Gabbard's response, and that's just not acceptable in my opinion. But we can go on to our next clip here.
Indicated that was made public this morning.
Oh,
But, Director,
one second, that's not the right clip.
Director Gabbard, you've reasserted that there was no classified information. I think we can all agree that that information shouldn't have been out there. But let me ask you this.
So here, Jim Hims is going to ask, based off of, because Tulsi Gabbard, leading the national intelligence community for the United States, pretty much has created the outline for what our national intelligence, what should be and shouldn't be classified. And he's going to say, hey, based off of what you've outlined should and shouldn't be classified, based off of what we've read right now, what do you think should this classification be? And her answer is just wholly unacceptable. But this goes to show that when the right is saying, oh, this is a nothing burger, it's not war plans, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, the people that they're questioning, the people that were part of this, have policies in place for what should and shouldn't be classified. And yeah, I'm just going to let it play out here.
Are you familiar with the ODNI's classification guidance?
I'm familiar
I've
with
actually
it.
got a copy right here. If I read you a part of that guidance, I wonder if you could tell me what the level of classification indicated is. I'm reading from your classification guidance. And the criteria is information providing indication or advance warning that the U.S. or its allies are preparing an attack. Do you recall what your own guidance would suggest that be classified?
I don't have the specifics in front of me, but it would point to what was shared would fall under the DoD's classification system and the Secretary of Defense's authority.
So let me help you,
determine
because there's
what
a
is
very clear
classified
answer.
and what is not.
You don't, I guess you don't have it, but information providing, this is the ODNI guidance, information providing indication or advance warning that the U.S. or its allies are preparing an attack should be classified as top secret. Do you disagree with that?
I don't disagree with that. I just point out that the DoD classification guidance is separate from the ODNI's classification guidance.
Do you think it would be materially different?
Ultimately, the Secretary of Defense holds the authority to classify or declassify.
Do you think it's likely that DoD guidance is materially different from what I just read?
I haven't reviewed the DoD guidance, so I can't comment.
So basically the answer from Tulsi Gabbard is, yeah, I know that I run national intelligence for the United States, but the Department of Defense has totally different rules and things for what should and shouldn't be classified. You run national intelligence. You are the authority, the person who is most well equipped to know what should and shouldn't be classified. And one, you don't know what the Department of Defense's classification system is, which, it doesn't matter that they're different departments. You kind of should have some general idea of what, you're dealing with national intelligence, and you're saying, oh, that intelligence is not important. And it's in the name, national intelligence. You should have an idea of what everything should be classified. And, she's basically saying, hey, that's Pete Hegseth's job. He gets to choose what's classified and isn't classified for the Department of Defense. It's just it makes my blood boil, just because it is putting people's lives at risk, and they just have no care in the world when it's them on the line here. And these are the same people that said Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton are the ones running things poorly and have no regard for secret information, keeping documents in their garage, which they returned as soon as they were asked to, and Donald Trump keeping them and hiding them and showing them to reporters and things like that, and saying, I could have declassified this, but I didn't when I had the chance, so I could get in trouble for doing this, literally spelling it out, the crime that he's doing. But we have another clip here of Donald Trump being completely unaware of what is going on, just completely out of it, which just shows how checked out the Trump administration is here. At least the highest person in the Trump administration, Donald Trump himself.
He's responsible, but he's also overseeing the investigation to find out what went wrong. Maybe
who's responsible?
Mike Waltz says that he's responsible.
Well, yeah, Mike Waltz, I guess he said he claimed responsibility, I would imagine. It had nothing to do with anyone else. It was Mike, I guess. I don't know. I was told it was Mike. But again, the attacks were unbelievably successful. And
it was Mike. I don't know. The attacks were successful. Who cares? Blah, blah, blah. We put American troops at risk, and we could have completely botched this, but it was successful, so who cares? And it also seems like they're trying to throw Mike Waltz under the bus here, by basically just kind of saying, oh, it was him. He's the one who invited them, which, yes, he is. But you have high-ranking officials in this chat talking about war plans, talking about attack plans, times, packages, the delivery vehicles of these attacks, the people we're going to attack, talking about this in a Signal group chat, not check, because in a secure a skiff, you have mechanisms for who can be and can't be. Jeffrey Greenberg could never have been inside of a government chat because he doesn't have an account on these systems, and he just wouldn't be allowed into these compartmentalized zones. And the fact that they're doing this in Signal, in a place where you could accidentally add some person who isn't allowed to, there would be people who would know who is and isn't allowed, and they could cherry pick who is allowed to go into that chat room in a skiff. In Signal, you can't do that. So that's the big problem here, and it's why. And then also, people with access to this chat were off in foreign governments where, they could have had their device stolen, and people could have gotten access to this kind of information. And not only that, now our enemies know that if a high-ranking official is off in a foreign country, all you have to do is take their device, and now if you just, beat them over the head with a crowbar, get their fingerprint, get to unlock their phone, or, stick their phone in their face and get their Face ID, or just, beat them over the head with a crowbar and get this information out of them, you might get top sensitive secrets from the person that you're interrogating, because they're doing all this communication on their private phones. But Trump would go on, and this is the shocking part.
That's ultimately what you should be talking about, I think. Mike did, he took responsibility for it.
His position over this.
Say it?
Should Secretary Hegseth consider his position over the signal?
Hegseth is doing a great job. He had nothing to do with this.
Hegseth, what did he do? He didn't do anything. He's the one who posted all the attack plans in this group chat. He's the one who leaked the information that we're talking about, that pretty much is the big problem. Like, if there was a group chat where J.D. Vance was just talking about the possibility of attacking the Houthis and how this sort of attack might not align with the interest of the Trump administration and things like that, that would be right. I would say it's a little bit over the line of, war plans and information that you shouldn't be leaking. But that's more akin to what they're talking about. This is a policy discussion. But where Kayleigh McEnany was saying that these were policy discussions, not war plans. But when you start talking about actual warplanes and weapons and possible targets and times that this is going to be happening, that's when we're way past the line at that point. And Pete Hegseth was the person who did this, and Trump is completely unaware. Nobody's told him. He's on planet 9, and everybody here is on Earth talking about this, and he's like, what? Hegseth, what did he do?
Hegseth. How do you bring Hegseth into it? He had nothing to do. Look, it's all a witch hunt. Here we are talking.
It's all a witch hunt. Russia. Hillary's emails, blah, blah, blah. It's all the same. The same talking points over and over again.
About some of the greatest business deals ever made, the greatest companies.
Obfuscate to the other things that he wants to talk about, these business deals that probably would be happening regardless of whether or not he was the president. Business deals that Joe Biden had instrumental key sayings into were happening. He takes credit for TSMC bringing factories over here, saying that they're going to invest $100 million and $500 million later on, and just raising that number over and over again. But it's Joe Biden who did the Chips and Science Act, and who during his administration, TSMC said that they were going to do $80 million of investment. So it goes from 80 million to 100 million. So Trump is really only, responsible for 20 million. And, that could just be, hey, we realize that this is going to cost more than what we originally thought, and we have to invest a little bit more money if we want to get this project done. But, the Chips and Science Act is the reason why these companies are coming over, but he just likes to take credit for that.
The world are moving into the United States, and you want to ask about whether or not Signal works. I don't know that Signal works. I think Signal could be defective, to be honest with you.
I don't even know what he's talking about here, Signal being defective. Signal is working as intended. It's the people using the tool that is the problem here. Maybe that's what he means.
And I think that's what we have to, because you use Signal and we use Signal and everybody uses Signal, but it could be a defective platform, and we're going to have to find that out.
So yeah, it seems like the actual administration is trying to deflect, trying to make it look like this is not a story, but this is a big deal. People's lives were put at risk. People could have died if this information got into the wrong hands, and the top officials who are responsible for keeping this information safe are asleep at the wheel. But one last clip, just because I think this is pretty funny, and it just shows how much this story is getting at Republicans. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene berating a British reporter for being British and just not wanting to answer questions about this.
Yep. Anybody else?
Should the defense secretary?
What country are you? Wait, what country are you from?
From the UK.
Okay, we don't give a
Absolutely
crap about your
disgusting.
opinion and your reporting. Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
Okay, do
And
you
you
care-
no. You should care about your own
Okay, do
borders.
you care
no,
about
no,
American
I
lives
no,
being put
no.
at risk?
Let me tell you something. Do you care about people from your country? What about all the women that are raped by migrants?
Do you care
No,
about-
by migrants. No, do you care? Okay, you're done.
Do you care about
not-
American lives
no,
being put at risk?
You know what? I don't
about
care. I don't.
service members fighting for your country.
I don't care about
and
your
vice
fake news.
president
Do you have a
and your
relevant
defense
question?
secretary?
Yeah, this is an American journalist. Thank you.
I'm an American, and I'd like to hear your answer to what she's asking.
I love that. It's, oh, you're an American, you're going to ask me questions that aren't going to be critical. And then the reporter is just like, I actually want to hear what she asked you. Could you please answer the question?
I'm not answering her question because I don't care about her network. If you would like to ask, I can
Do you
answer.
have any concerns whatsoever about the complete disregard of operational security from the top
No,
level
I'm not gonna
of this
answer that.
administration?
Let's talk
You
about
want to
Joe
know
Biden.
about complete disregard about operational security? You should talk about the Biden administration, how they ripped our
Oh.
borders open to terrorists, cartel, child sex trafficking, human trafficking, and drug trafficking across our borders for 4 years. The Trump administration is doing a great job, and I stand by their statements.
So you have
I
no-
stand
no
by their
comment
statements.
whatsoever about
My comment to you is I'm
comments-
thankful to President Trump that he is leading us out of wars, that he's
Leading
ending
us
the
out of
war in
wars while
Ukraine,
he's
where
attacking
American
people.
lives could have been killed.
And I love that too, because the whole thing was no new wars, no new wars, no new wars, and then now we're getting into new conflicts in Yemen, in the war in between Hamas and Israel still going on. Putin is totally not wanting to come to the table with a Ukraine deal, and Ukraine is honestly just trying to do everything it possibly can to try and keep their country in one piece. And Trump is like, you got to make concessions, you got to give up land when it's Russia who invaded Ukraine. I'm not going to get into that whole can of worms, but yeah, it's this administration who is starting new conflicts, is incapable of ending conflicts that are already going on. The Israeli Hamas deal is falling apart at the seams. Ukraine and Russia are still becoming more and more inflamed, and China is just looking at this and looking at Taiwan and is saying, well, it seems that America is asleep at the wheel. Maybe this is the time to go and take this territory.
If Joe Biden was still president today, whether he liked it or not. We're talking about NPR and PBS today. We're talking about fake news that was funded with federal funding from American taxpayers. That's what this is about today, not journalists from the UK that should care about
A
their own.
journalist is being vilified for exposing failings in the way that you're...
And she just walks off. Doesn't want to answer the question. This is an absolute embarrassment in my opinion. This has been Cover News. It's March 26, 2025. Like, subscribe, comment, and stay tuned for more.